Our story begins in an empty classroom. A lone boy with a sad expression sits at his desk, quietly drawing. His name is Jindain, 17 years old. He thinks that in every class there's someone socially awkward, someone who doesn't quite fit in, someone invisible. Though he hates to admit it, he believes he's that person. Jin finds nothing exciting about school, but he truly enjoys the early mornings before anyone else arrives. Those peaceful moments spent sketching without distractions are his favorite. That peace is suddenly broken when three girls walk in, laughing loudly and gossiping about boys. Annoyed, Jin stops drawing. He sees them as obnoxious intruders who ruined his quiet time. Though they're not from his class, they've come in just to chat, speaking loudly and swearing without care. Jin sees it as rude and inconsiderate. He slams his hand on the desk, thinking it's all her fault. Her, the number one bully of the school, Ilgina. Ilgina is confident, blonde, beautiful, with long hair and a curvy figure. She dresses boldly and used to arrive late every day. Now she comes early just to gossip, and Jin resents it. As he glares at her, Ilgina suddenly looks toward the door, sensing someone entering. Jin follows her gaze. A boy walks into the room and scolds the girls, saying their loud voices could be heard from the principal's office. The girls clearly find him annoying for interrupting. He approaches Ilgina and teases her about showing up early lately. She ignores him, focusing on her phone, visibly uncomfortable. One of her friends excuses herself and heads to the bathroom. Jin notices Ilgina's unease and realizes the boy is just another guy trying to flirt with her, something she deals with often. Ilgina is popular, not just for her looks, but also for her talent. She sings and dances well, and her figure draws attention from everyone at school. He thinks that even with her terrible attitude, guys still like her, but it doesn't change anything. She knows exactly how to avoid them. The new guy grabs Gina lightly by the arm, still flirting and asking her to follow him on Instagram. With a cold, uninterested look, she refuses and says she doesn't have an account. The guy points out she's clearly using Instagram on her phone. Without even looking up, she replies that she's about to delete it. He keeps trying to make conversation, but Gina continues ignoring him. Jin wonders how the guy doesn't realize she's not the slightest bit interested. Finally, when her silent hints are ignored, Gina looks him straight in the eyes and bluntly tells him to leave her alone. Embarrassed, the guy apologizes and walks out of the room. Jin watches everything with a faint smirk. Gina's friend says something random and laughs, but Gina just stares at the floor with her arms crossed, clearly serious. The friend teases her, saying if she hates guys so much, they should stop inviting them to hang out. Gina replies flatly that guys are boring, just dancing monkeys who desperately chase her. Her friend lights up and leans in, asking if maybe there's someone special Gina actually likes, promising to keep it secret. From afar, Jin wonders what they're whispering about, then reminds himself he doesn't care, though deep down he wants to hear. Gina's friend keeps pressing her for a name, laughing and getting closer. Jin grows frustrated, unable to make out the words. Then suddenly, Gina glances over, without turning fully, and locks eyes with him. Jin freezes, shocked and confused. He wonders why she looked at him just then. Did she notice he'd been watching all along? Before he can make sense of it, Gina's other friend returns from the bathroom and asks what they were talking about. The moment dies with the interruption. Gina looks visibly uncomfortable, maybe even embarrassed. Jin calms himself, thinking there's no way Gina truly noticed him. Maybe just for a second, but nothing serious. He chuckles internally and relaxes, laying his head on the desk to nap. Gina's friend keeps asking if there's someone she likes. This time, Jin finally hears the question he had been so curious about, but decides to ignore it and keeps sleeping. It's early morning in the same classroom. Jin sits at his desk, deeply irritated once again. The cause? Ilgina and her friends, the bullies. He watches from afar as Gina does her makeup and scrolls through her phone. She's arrived early again, as usual lately, chatting non-stop with her friend. Jin hates seeing her every morning. He imagines her mocking him, saying he's just a lonely otaku who stares from a distance and can't do anything about it. But Jin has a secret plan for revenge. Smiling, he pulls out a notebook from his bag. Inside, he's drawn images of Gina. In his art, he makes her his girl, posing her however he wants, whenever he wants, without her even knowing. That way, he can control everything, and no matter how she'd feel about it, she can't stop him. He wonders what he'll turn Gina into today in his drawings, what compromising poses he'll place her in, and that thought fills him with twisted sense of victory. Across the classroom, Gina shifted uncomfortably in her seat, while her friend noticed her unease. Though unable to pinpoint exactly why, Gina confessed she felt strangely disgusted by something. Their conversation soon turned to the luxury brand shirt Gina wore beneath her sweater, which her friend admired with excitement. With little enthusiasm, Gina explained it was sponsored content from an Instagram promotion. Jin, eavesdropping nearby, silently judged how Gina received free high-end clothing simply for her online presence. He realized this explained why her outfits changed dramatically each day, a realization that sparked inspiration for his next sketch. As Gina removed her sweater, she casually mentioned how her new shirt doubled as a sports bra. The revealing garment left little to the imagination, which Gina seemed completely comfortable with as she stood to show it off. When Gina's friend grew flustered and told her to cover up, Jin silently fumed at the comment. In his mind, the friend was simply jealous that Gina looked better, another example of why he considered the female gender shameful. Gina couldn't help but laugh at her friend's comment. "Just put your sweater back on before everyone gets here," her friend insisted. Gina finally gave in, but not before deciding to tie her hair up first. As she raised her arms, she secretly glanced sideways at Jin across the classroom without moving her head. Jin didn't realize she'd noticed him, but he definitely noticed when she lifted her arms to tie her hair. He froze completely, unable to look away. All the blood in his body rushed south as the suggestive scene played out. He felt like he was floating out of control, desperately trying to suppress his rising desire. He scrambled to think of something, anything, to calm himself down. His mind jumped to an image of peaceful mountains under a clear blue sky with sheep wandering the trails. But even in this escape fantasy, Gina appeared as a shepherd's daughter in overalls, complaining about the heat as sweat trickled down her body, right past her armpit. The fantasy backfired spectacularly. Now he couldn't stop thinking about Gina's armpit of all things. Overwhelmed, Jin suddenly stood up and bolted from the classroom without explanation. Gina and her friend watched in confusion as he rushed out. While her friend just seemed puzzled, Gina looked genuinely upset that Jin had left. "Is something wrong?" her friend asked. "No, nothing," Gina replied, trying to hide her true feelings. Jin rushed straight to the school bathroom, locking himself in a stall. His hands moved frantically until he finally released the tension. Washing up afterward, he realized reality was way better than just imagining or drawing those moments. Returning to class, he thought about how much more detailed his sketches could be now. But as he opened the door, his stomach dropped. Gina's friend was sitting at his desk, holding his sketchbook. "What's in here?" she asked, fingers already flipping through the pages. Jin froze as she gasped at the revealing drawings of Gina. "Are these yours?" she asked, shocked. Before he could think, the word yes slipped out. Jin knew he was completely screwed. Jin stood frozen in the classroom, eyes locked on the floor as waves of shame washed over him. Gina's friend waved his sketchbook angrily in front of his face, her voice laced with disgust as she called him disgusting. Behind her, Gina remained silent, arms crossed, her face an unreadable mask. The friend's outrage grew as she shoved one of the drawings in Jin's face, demanding to know how he could secretly sketch Gina like that all this time. Jin's mind raced. How had they discovered his sketches? He realized with sinking dread that in his frantic rush to the bathroom earlier, he must have left his notebook exposed on his desk. Though outwardly silent, Jin's thoughts churned desperately for a way out of this nightmare that would undoubtedly ruin his reputation school-wide. The friend continued her tirade, labeling him a creepy stalker and weird otaku before shouting for Gina to come see what Jin had been drawing without her knowledge. As Gina approached with her perfectly proportioned figure and effortless confidence, Jin knew any hope of defending himself was slipping away. She stopped directly before him, posture firm, arms still crossed as she fixed him with an intense gaze and demanded an explanation about the drawings. Jin's mouth moved, but only fragmented words emerged, his nervous system overloading as memories of every past social humiliation flashed through his mind. Jin's mind flashed back to recess, headphones on, lost in a mobile game, until a tap on his shoulder shattered the illusion. His headphones had never been plugged in. The entire school heard the anime voices blaring from his phone. Humiliating? Yes. Socially fatal? No. Then came the dodgeball memory. Last pick, standing alone as teams formed. He walked off the court rather than face the pain. Did anyone care? Barely. Another embarrassment survived, but this, Gina holding his explicit sketches, her friend screaming for the whole class to hear, this was different. His stomach dropped. This was the end. Gina flipped through the drawings, an unreadable smile playing on her lips. Jin's social standing, already rock bottom, was about to plunge into the abyss. By tomorrow, the whole school would know him as the creepy artist who sketched girls without consent. The bullying would be relentless. Gina would own him, a puppet to humiliate at will. His future, a living hell. The classroom air hung thick with tension as the three remained frozen in place. Jin stood motionless. Before Gina could react, Jin turned and rushed for the door, already planning his transfer paperwork to escape the inevitable fallout. The angry shouts of Gina's friend echoed behind him, but another sound cut through the noise, the crisp tear of paper. Jin turned to see Gina casually examining one of his sketches, her expression unreadable. To everyone's shock, she complimented the artwork, then calmly explained she'd commissioned these drawings herself. The revelation left both Jin and the friend speechless. Was this a rescue or some deeper game? As Gina walked away with the stolen sketch, Jin could only mutter a single bewildered question about when this supposed request had ever happened. With unsettling calmness, Gina asserted she had indeed commissioned the drawings from Jin. Her friend stood incredulous, demanding confirmation of this impossible claim. Jin's mind reeled. When had this fictional request occurred? They'd never exchanged words. Was the school's untouchable Queen Bee actually protecting him? The same Gina whose destructive charm made even the toughest guys tread carefully, whose beauty came with razor edges. This defied all logic. The friend pressed again about the sketch, unable to accept Gina's explanation. Gina elaborated that she'd wanted to promote her controversial shirt, too revealing for photographs, through drawings instead. When the friend asked why she'd kept this secret, Gina simply shrugged. As they walked away, Jin grappled with possible motives. Was this about avoiding association with a loser like him? Or was some future blackmail coming? He could only hope the matter would now disappear. The friend's scornful question about why Gina would ever involve someone like Jin hung in the air. Gina's casual reply about him being at least useful struck Jin like physical blows. Slumping at his desk, he watched them from a distance until the friend noticed hallway commotion. Some unfortunate soul being mocked. She eagerly joined the cruelty, labeling the victim a loser. Meanwhile, Gina remained seated, barely acknowledging her friend's antics. Her full attention stayed fixed on Jin's drawing, spread openly across her desk. Her expression showed unmistakable satisfaction, fingers tracing the lines with quiet pleasure that unsettled the air around her. As the empty classroom echoed with the sounds of Jin's cleaning, he reflected on how the day had ended surprisingly quietly. Gina hadn't exposed him, perhaps considering him too insignificant to even acknowledge. Maybe his school life would continue its uneventful path after all. Stepping into the hallway to wring out his mop, he suddenly collided with something impossibly soft, yet firm. Gina's ample chest. The impact sent Jin tumbling to the floor, mop clattering beside him as he stared up at Gina's looming figure. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he stammered questions about why she remained after school. Her vague answer did little to calm his racing thoughts. Had she waited to punish him for the drawings? When she bent down, Jin instinctively raised his arms in defense, only for her to simply retrieve the fallen mop and explain she'd also been assigned cleaning duty. Working side by side at the chalkboards, Jin noticed how uncharacteristically quiet Gina remained. The silence grew heavier with each passing minute until she finally broke it, asking his name with curious eyes. His nervous reply of Jin Daim somehow transformed into Perdador in her ears, which he didn't correct. Then came the question he dreaded. Why had he drawn her? Internally, Jin rehearsed brutal truths, how he'd sketched her as revenge for humiliating him, how she represented everything wrong with their school's social hierarchy. But when his mouth opened, only a meek apology emerged, his courage dissolving under her intense gaze. The boy who fantasized about justice now stood with hands in pockets, unable to voice even a fraction of his resentment toward the girl who dominated both the classroom and his conflicted thoughts.
A new school day began, and Gina arrived, but not alone. Her friend greeted her with a smile, only to receive a brief, indifferent response before Gina walked past. The entire school froze in disbelief as whispers spread through the hallway. Gina, the untouchable queen, was arm in arm with Jin in front of all the people. Jin's face burned with discomfort. He hated the attention, the stares, the murmurs questioning if this was some cruel joke. A girl suddenly blocked their path, pointing in shock. "This can't be real," she exclaimed. Gina shrugged, downplaying it. "We're just walking together." But the girl pressed further, demanding to know why Gina would stoop so low. With a smirk, Gina interlaced her fingers with Jin's and declared, "Say hello to my new boyfriend." The school stood paralyzed. Jin's stomach dropped. The girl refused to believe Gina, sparking hushed whispers among the students. Why would Gina reject everyone only to choose the weakest? This made no sense. With unwavering confidence, Gina reaffirmed their relationship status, flashing Jin a dazzling smile. Jin, head lowered, returned a nervous grin and confirmed they'd been dating since yesterday. Rewind to the day before, when they were cleaning the chalkboard together. When Gina asked why he'd drawn her, Jin had instinctively apologized, not because he truly regretted it, but because he hoped that would end the conversation. Yet Gina didn't seem angry at all, just curious. Stammering, Jin explained he used her as a model to practice drawing different clothing styles, since her daily outfits provided perfect material. The word mannequin slipped out, visibly irritating Gina. Jin mentally kicked himself of all the excuses. He'd chosen the worst possible phrasing. Gina stepped back, disappointed. She admitted she didn't actually care about the drawings. She posted similar photos online for money anyway. But there was one key difference. Those were consensual and paid. These sketches unauthorized. A mischievous glint appeared in her eyes as she proposed her solution. Jin would become her boyfriend to settle the debt. Jin stood frozen, struggling to process Gina's absurd demand. When he asked what she possibly gained from this arrangement, she simply stated it was fair compensation for his actions. His mind immediately raced with fantasies of romantic dates, intimate moments, even marriage, until Gina's sharp laugh snapped him back to reality. This would be fake, she clarified. A performance. Her eyes scanned him with clear disdain as she added she'd never actually date someone like him. The truth emerged. She needed a human shield against her endless stream of admirers. Jin was just a tool to make them back off. When he hesitated, Gina played her final card. Comply, or she'd expose him to the entire school as the pervert who sketched girls without consent. Trapped with no escape, Jin surrendered. He had walked into her trap the moment she found those drawings. Now, completely at her mercy, he became Gina's unwilling fake boyfriend.